You know, you create your life, you've read the books, you know the science, you know all that stuff. You read all the manifesting books, and still, it's really hard for you to focus on what you want. You still get hijacked with old stories and old patterns. I started to really think about how empaths and HSPs, highly sensitive people, are different. And I think in the whole manifesting community out there, nobody really talks about this. And what I see is that so many believe that there's got to be something wrong with me. It's me. I'm the problem. And this is what I want to talk about in today's video. I'm an HSP. We're different. It's not just a label or word that people made up. In the 90s, and let me get my information here. Back in the 90s, a psychologist, Dr. Elaine Aron, identified what she called highly sensitive person trait. It's actually a biological difference in how your nervous system processes information. We are about 15 to 20% of the population, and probably more. I would guess even more. But here's the thing that nobody prepares us for. We process everything, light, sound, emotion, energy, all of it more deeply. Our brains literally light up differently in imaging scans. And we pick up on subtleties that other people miss, like tone of voice, body language, collective energy shifts. And it's also why right now the chaos of the world can just feel like too much. I think that so many of us just believe that it's trauma. I think most of us chalk it up to trauma. I used to. That's why we're different. And so we just have to suck it up and heal ourselves and fix ourselves. And then when this manifesting rage started to occur a few years ago, then most of the people that I work with said, what am I doing wrong? What am I missing? And that's why I'm making this video. I wanted to talk about some of the ways that we're different so that you can let yourself off the hook. And then I want to tie this in to what it means when you know you create your life. And just about everybody I work with does, right? They all do. They know it. They're having issues with it. One of the first things is depth of processing. You don't just see, you sense. You notice patterns and meanings, motives, energy. You process layers deep. You're the one who's always asking, what's really going on here? You're the one who looks at the news and says, oh my gosh, why can't anybody else see this? And if you're wired for change, if you're wired to be here on the planet, not just for personal identity and personal change, but if you're wired to be here to create something new, if you're wired here for the tribe, then you're on fire right now. It's difficult not to get hooked with everything that we see going on during all this change. Another marker is overstimulation. And I know you can relate to this because you take in so much, your system can short circuit faster. Too much noise, too much chaos, too much energy, or too much conflict. And your body literally says, I'm done, I'm full, and it could shut down. And if you keep going, you could become ill, or right now you may be going through some purging. And instead of trying to push through it, we have to just let our body detox, do what it wants to do. I know I've had a couple days like that I felt ill, but I don't get sick. And within a few hours, it was done. Another marker is emotional responsiveness and empathy. And this is quite honestly what messes us up most of the time. We feel things fully. We feel the joyous of joy. We feel the depths of sadness, and we feel other people's pain. And until you understand how to create boundaries and really what boundaries are, it's hard to tell what's yours and what's there. The other part of that is that we believe it's our job to take care of other people. And if you grew up believing that that's how you got love, by being the one who puts everybody else first and takes care of everything, you may be feeling right about now that that's not working, that you're not receiving. This is a classic empath thing of overgiving and letting toddlers learn how to walk by falling if they have to, by letting people fall apart. And then if they want help, they ask you. The fourth marker is sensitivity to subtleties. You catch micro expressions, tone shifts, collective energy ripples. I call it ripples in the field. You feel those that other people just walk right past. And if you say anything to somebody, if you're with thinkers who live from the chin up, they may say to you, you need therapy. A client told me that this morning, that she was told she has some psychiatric issue. No, she's an HSP. She's very sensitive. If you recognize yourself in these micro expressions, these tone shifts, and the everything that's going on in the collective, yay, you're not dramatic. You're just tuned to a higher resolution. And here's where it gets wild, because science is finally catching up with what sensitives have always known. I listened to cognitive neuroscientist Donald Hoffman a few evenings ago in an interview. Hoffman's theory that he's actually proving now with the math is that we're all wearing virtual reality goggles or virtual reality headsets. He's proven what ancients have always known. We don't see reality as it is. We see it as a filtered interface. Like icons on your desktop, you see the blue folder, not all the code underneath. We don't see energy as it is. We see patterns. And that's what, if you're listening to this, you are seeing and sensing those patterns. Our brains then translate those patterns into information. We don't look out at a tree and see vibrating energy, but that's really what's happening. We translate those patterns into concepts, into forms, into language, into a thing that everyone agrees with. But if you're an HSP or an empath, whatever word you choose to use, you sense those patterns underneath, and you feel the data stream. Most people's filters are thick. Survival programs, cultural conditioning, belief systems, assumptions that you took on that really aren't even yours. They're assumptions that your parents made and assumptions that your ancestors made, like life isn't safe, I'm not safe, money is hard, I have to work hard, whatever yours are. But if you're an HSP, your filters are thin. You see through the icons. You feel that data stream underneath. And that's why when collective frequencies shift, when systems collapse or energies accelerate, you feel it before anyone else. So right about now, your amygdala is firing, saying, change, change. Because we're not wired for change and acceleration. We're wired for survival. We're wired for sameness. And I just want to tell you that you're not imagining anything right now. If you're being told that you're too sensitive or that you're overreacting, they just don't know. Whoever is telling you that is a muggle. I call them muggles. They don't know what you know. They can't sense what you sense. You're literally sensing source code. That's how I put it. Neurologically, we HSPs have a more active insula. It's the part of the brain that integrates emotion and intuition. We have stronger mirror neurons, which makes us more empathic and a more responsive vagus nerve, which connects directly to emotional safety. So to unpack that, energetically, that means your body is a finely tuned antenna and one that picks up subtle frequency shifts in the collective field. So when the Earth's energy spikes, when solar flares intensify, or when global or national tension rise, your body feels it even before it's on the news. Right? I'm sure you can identify with this. I can feel things at a field level and then look to see what's happening in the news. But most of us aren't trained to deal with this because, let's face it, we're trained as little kids to be like everybody else, to fit in. That's what school teaches us, to learn like everybody else learns, to take the same tests that everybody else takes. But it doesn't work that way. Your work isn't to toughen up during these times. It's not to shut down. And we certainly can't go live in a cave. Your work is to build capacity, to regulate your nervous system so that you can translate energy without burning out. When you ground that much sensitivity in safety, in breath, in movement, and in coherence or alignment, you become what I call a stabilizer of frequency. You're not the one reacting to the world. You're the one holding the tone for it. We're not here to hide from the noise. We're here to be so unflappable that the noise has no choice but to dissolve. And that's the work for you as an HSP or an empath, to notice what you notice, to feel what you're feeling, and not go back to, I'm the problem, I'm too sensitive, this is what's happening. We go back to an old story that we learned when we were little to make sense of this highly sensitive signaling system that nobody understood. We still don't understand it. We have to be mindful to realize that we're reacting to something that's an old story in us that might be saying you should be afraid, or someone just shared with me this morning that they're waiting for the world to slow down so that they'll feel more clear, and then they'll know what spirit wants them to do. And here's the problem with that. Everything is now. You're the signal to which life responds to. And that's exactly why we need to become so self-aware and accountable. Are we reacting or are we responding? And that's what so many people are missing right now. Because again, as I said in the very beginning, with so much talk about manifestation and conscious creation, you just can't, if you're an HSP or an empath, we just don't reframe a thought. It is body deep. It is nervous system deep. And the gift of that, when you understand what's happening, is the gift of that is that When you create these changes in how you process information, when you slow down, when you realize when you're triggered, and instead of going into an old story, things don't work out for me, I'm afraid, I don't know what to do. Those are just stories that we need to take a breath. Here's my old story. Here's my old friend doubt. Here's my old friend fear. We breathe through it. We stop abandoning ourselves by going into some story about it, because that's what we learned to do as little kids. We be present with doubt. We befriend it. And we let it be there. We just let it be there. And it just takes a few seconds. It takes 90 seconds for an emotion to move through the body. Anything else is story. Just a story that you're telling about it, which proliferates the feeling and the reactivity. Be present with the feeling, whether it's fear, it could be abandonment. I'm hearing that from lots of people. It looks like other people in your life might not be supporting you or abandoning you. And the answer is always, how am I abandoning myself? Be with the feeling of powerlessness. Be with the feeling of whatever is up. Breathe. Just breathe. And put your hand on your heart and say, I'm here. I'm safe. Everything is working out for me, because it is. It's just that life is always responding to who you think you are. And as an HSP or an empath, the world doesn't talk to how we're different. I mean, the manifesting community doesn't really speak to our wiring. It tells us to live from the end, push through. But you could be pushing through for years. This stuff isn't logical, and we're not like everybody else. So if you're frustrated now, if you're doing everything that you know to do, living from the end, consciously creating, but you're still not experiencing results, I would invite you to go deeper. What's happening in your body? Is there fear? Is there some trepidation? Like, what if you do get what you want? How does that feel? Our body is the controller in this sacred simulation that we live in. Nobody told us that. And if you have an extra sensitive nervous system, an extra sensitive body who sees what other people can't see, and perhaps you're at the point where you don't even have words for it, but you feel it. That's the part we need to address. So stop beating yourself up if you are. Stop saying, well, this just doesn't work for me. Stop putting it on your trauma, because that's what a lot of people do. So many people just say, oh, it's my trauma. You have trauma because of how you're holding your sensitivity. That's all it is. You're different, and I want you to celebrate your differences. Notice the energy patterns. Name what you see going on, and stop expecting other people to see what you can't see, because that is a very common byproduct of being a highly sensitive person who's regulated. Other people can't see what you see. They live in their heads. They dip down into their hearts once in a while, but they don't see with deep, deep clarity what you see. What I hear so often from clients is that they're expecting validation from their partners. And you're not going to get it. You're just not going to get it from a muggle who didn't come here as a highly sensitive person. I hope this helps. Listen, it is a gift to be a highly sensitive person. Once you understand how to regulate your body and regulate your emotions, it's so easy to tell as a regulated HSP, what's yours and what's not. And it's easy to determine when you're consciously choosing to create something new in your life. It's much, much easier when you're regulated to know what stories are coming up and how to work with your body to feel safe. Because we change at the speed of safety. Life changes at the speed of safety. Not by working, not by forcing, not by hustling. Everything lands in your life when you become the version of you who's already living your dream, living your amazing life. And the key is your nervous system has to match that calm, unflappable, resilient you who is no longer reacting to everything and who's choosing, who sees the patterns and refuses to engage. And you may be here to create your own work around this because you know things the rest of the world doesn't know yet. Let me know how this lands. I'd love to hear your feedback. Thanks for listening. I'm Wanda Vitale. I'm the creator of the Empowered Empaths and the Reality Architects. I'm a life coach and a midwife to you revolutionaries who are here to change the world. Thanks for listening.